everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Male Perspective. I am your host, Lana Reid, and today on this day, I have the true pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman by the name of Jon Waugh. He is a life coach, relationship coach. He has a couple of ebooks out there and a motivational speaker, and I'm looking forward to talking to him and picking his brain about the work that he does. But first and foremost, as I always do, sir, I take a quick moment to pause and say thank you to you for making time for me today. Time is a gift. Once we give it, we can't get it back. So I truly appreciate you setting aside this time in your day to sit down and chat with little old me. And with that, sir, welcome to the show.
Pleasure.
Awesome. Well, as I was preparing for today's show, I see you have an event coming up, and I want to start right off talking about that before I get into some other things. And the event is Keep the Spark Alive. It's a relationship discussion. And as I was kind of clicking around, I saw that you're one of the target areas for this event is first responders.
Correct.
And when I was reading that, I had like a little dumb moment, light bulb moment, I guess you would say. I never really thought about first responders in the relationship space, and I guess I should have. But so I, I want to start by asking that or talking about that because everybody wants a person in a uniform, I guess, until they get a person in a uniform. So my first question to you is for the first responder going into a relationship, because everybody's talking about full transparency. That's like the buzzword today, full transparency. When you're approaching a relationship as a first responder, what are some of the things that you should just lay out on the table right from the jump so somebody understands what they're getting into?
For one, and this is all off the top of my head. For one, I would say you got to look at just the realism of what it's going to be looking like to be in a relationship. With a first responder, really anyone that has a demanding schedule or one that they don't entirely control. I know one of my mentors, somebody I look up to, he owns a security company now, but he was a sheriff before and worked in a couple of different departments. And one of the things he highlighted was, you got to think you first going in there, you're not going to have control over exactly what your schedule is. You're not going to be able to dictate, well, I only want to work this shift or I only want to work this time. Like oftentimes you're going to get what's laid out. You may have some say, but otherwise you're a rookie, you're a newbie, so
Mm-hmm.
going into it, you're going to have to stay a while before you actually get the flexibility to be able to, not work holidays as you want, or maybe be able to switch to day shift if you started with night shift, those type of things. So one of the points that he brought out for those I think who just starting off is he said, say you got two people and they're both first responders, you got to understand that you both are going to be in spots where you are doing things that you may not necessarily want to do. Maybe you both are working holidays, maybe one of you is working a holiday and one of you isn't, but that's got to be something that you got to think about going into it because you don't want that to be, a means of contention for the two of you when it's not really either one of y'all's fault. That's what's going on. That's just the way it is. Essentially, starting off or depending on maybe you've been in a first responder for a while. Let's just say we're talking about law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your wife's a detective or something like that. Maybe she's a homicide detective. You think if something comes up and she gets a call in the middle of the night that she's gotta respond to something, you think she wants to leave. Maybe y'all nice little dinner that y'all was having. No, but she can't just show up when she feel like it per se. Like she can't just wait to the morning. Like if it's gotta get handled, it's gotta get handled. So if you know that ahead of time, when your wife takes that position, then those are conversations that y'all can have beforehand. Y'all can discuss like how you're going to handle that. So when something like that happens, it's not a shock to the system. It's a hey, that's unfortunate, but I get it. We've already been over this. Go handle what you got to handle, and we'll pick this back up. But if you're not having those conversations ahead of time, then when that does happen, it can really leave more of a sour taste in your mouth than there needs to be.
Mm-hmm. So listening to you talk, I guess my next question is, and I'm assuming this is just a personal perspective question. Is it easier, do you think, for two law enforcement or first responder people to be in a relationship or a non-first responder and a first responder? Which one's more challenging, do you think?
I would say I wouldn't say it's an easier thing. I would say there's pluses and minuses. If you got two people that are first responders in a similar field, then obviously there's a measure of understanding that comes from that because they both work in the same area. Like if you got one person's a nurse, or like my girl is, one person's a
Mhm.
nurse and one person's a police officer, one person works in the fire department and one person, works as a cop, or whatever the case may be. There's a measure of understanding, like what's understood doesn't need to be explained because they're in that same realm. So there's pluses to that. But
Okay.
at the same time, and what if one of them was a first responder, and what if the other partner is completely in a different field? What if they work from home, and they have a job where they make more money going in, starting off. And
Gotcha.
because of that, they don't really have to worry about bills and stuff like that too much because they have more than enough money to do what they need to do. Well, that could put them in a position where, yeah, the first responder has maybe more of a stressful job, but because their finances are in a really good spot, they can take a lot of vacations and stuff like that, that maybe they wouldn't
Mm.
be able to do with the same freedom if they both were in the same line of work. So I think on that could be a plus side, whereas on the downside, okay, maybe if both people aren't in the same line of work, there has to be more explaining in terms of, trying to get the other person to understand what you're going through. But
Gotcha. Gotcha.
at the end of the day, do you really need to understand all the ins and outs of your partner's like job or what they do? It's not your job. My girl's
True.
a nurse, and obviously me taking an interest in what she's doing, I know more about the field now than I did when she started, but
Gotcha.
I don't know how to do her job. I don't need to. It's not my job.
Yeah.
So I look at it in that sense. It's no different than, being completely outside of that first responder bubble. I don't need to know everything about my partner's job. I just need to know enough to be able to support them and understand when they're having a bad day, why they had a bad day, and then
Mm-hmm.
understand how I can show up for them, when they need me. You don't
Gotcha.
need to be in the same umbrella, of work to be able to do that.
Oh,
It's just about taking that interest in your partner and understanding that, hey, like maybe you don't get why they're so upset, or maybe you don't get why they're so stressed out. But if your intention is to be, the best for your partner, to be able to show up for them and help them work through it, then you'll ask the right questions and you'll be that listening ear, and you'll be able to, get that insight based off of what they're sharing with you to be able to support them and the way you need to support them. You don't have to be in the same line of work to do that. And sometimes with you not being in that same line of work, that could put you in a better position in some ways to support them because you're not taking on the same stress at your job that they just took on from their job. So instead of, y'all not both coming home, maybe not wanting to say anything or just both, overwhelmed, well, you had the stay at home job. So your job wasn't as stressful that day. You are in a better position to be able to support them because your stress level was lower in that moment.
mm.
So there's different ways to look at it,
Okay.
but the good thing is you can go into these situations, with a plan. And that's what my advice would be, for people, not just first responders, but just everyone when you're entering into serious relationships, is to have more of a plan and be proactive. Don't just wait for something to happen and then you're like, we don't know how to
Where
solve it.
we at
Be
here?
exactly be proactive with it, and
Okay.
that'll help you avoid a lot of major pitfalls that mess a lot of people's relationships up.
Okay. Now I'm hearing you discuss something that I- is a concern for me when it comes to the first responders, and I guess maybe I hear more of this when it comes to law enforcement, and I guess it could apply. But there's an element of we don't talk about that, and communication is very important in relationships. So unfortunately, law enforcement sees things throughout the day, goes through certain things throughout the day, and they come home, and you have a supportive partner who wants to say, okay, I want you to mentally help you mentally unpack this, but I can't talk about it. I can't discuss it. Is that difficult? Is that problematic?
I think it depends on if you're talking about details and things like that, then there might be some details they may not be able to discuss. But if you're just talking about, just a typical, patrol officer or something like that. I mean, you can talk about your day if you want to. You can talk about your day and yeah, I had a shooting or I had an OD or whatever, as long as you're not disclosing maybe information that might be confidential or just needs to stay hush hush while an investigation is going on, whatever the case may be. You can still talk about what's happening. Just like, with like I said, my girl being a nurse, like she can talk about her day, but she can't give me names and specifics, about
Mm,
the people, but she can still tell me about what happened with a patient without breaking any guidelines. There's just a general, way to do it. And I can still, support her based off of what she's giving me. I don't need to know all the extra fine details to be able to do that. I think a lot of times, and this every person's different, but I think a lot of times what you may hear is that someone, especially if their partner is in that line of work, they don't want to feel like they're putting all that baggage on their partner. They don't want to burden them with
Mm,
that stress. But what they don't realize is that if they just completely shut down and don't talk about it at all, that they're inadvertently still, adding to their partner's plate if that partner cares about them.
mm-hmm,
Because now
mm-hmm.
they're seeing you stressed out, they want to help decrease your stress, but because you're shutting down and you're not saying anything, you're not putting them in a position to do that, which then will stress them out. So you're
Gotcha.
actually not helping yourself by doing that. If
Okay.
you don't want to share exactly, what happened, or you don't want to really get into it because you're like, okay, it was, maybe you just don't want to talk about it right now. Okay, cool. But at least being able to, flush your brain just a little bit and help you feel a
Mm-hmm.
little bit better is gonna help your partner feel, like they're doing their job, as well. They don't want to see you just sitting there all miserable, like.
So since you're in it, how do you help your girlfriend mentally decompress from her day?
Well, one of the things I got her was is actually sitting next to me in the office here. Well, I listen, I listen. So one of the things that because their shifts are like, 12 plus hours, one of the things that she always mentions is like, hey, like, if my back hurts or like my feet hurt or whatever the case may be. So I got her like a foot massager. I don't remember if it was for Christmas or something like that, but I got her a foot massager. Because I got a nice one, one that has the little remote to it. It heats up, like, it's everything's reusable in terms of like the inserts for your feet, so it's really nice. But I got her that because she said her feet hurt. Now I know, and this we be talking about being realistic. I'm not about to massage her feet every damn day. I'm not doing that. So I don't want to do that. Like I don't mind doing it, but that's not something I'm going to do all the time. It's being
Mm-hmm.
real. But that doesn't mean I just completely ignore the fact that that's an issue, because it is. And
Gotcha.
I know from times where I've had to be on my feet for a long time, your feet hurting doesn't just go away. It, like, a lot of times it follows you into the next day. And she works her shifts typically consecutively. So 2, 3 days at a time, or whatever the case may be. So then it's compounded.
Mm-hmm.
Your feet get swollen and stuff like that. So that's no fun, especially when your job demands that you have to be on your feet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I got her that, because it's something where she doesn't have to put any effort. It's in, she's put it in the office. She can come in, do a little bit of administrative work if she wants to, and then let the machine do its thing. And I've used it too. Like it really helps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that's really nice. And then our bed too is one of those mechanical beds. So she'll like put her feet up, so then that actually helps
The
relieve
blood
like the blood
flow.
flow and
Okay.
take the pressure off. So I
Awesome.
got her that because just listening to the issue that she was saying she was having all the time. And she
Mm-hmm.
really appreciated it, because I'm looking to solve a problem, that can't really get away from, with the job. But how do we make, the job how do we make it so it's more sustainable for you to be able to go there and not feel like you're suffering? So listening, that's a big thing. And then, like, she
Yes.
didn't ask me for it. So listening and being willing to think outside the box, or again, like I said, just show up for your partner. Think little things like that, go a long way. Sometimes it might be listening and having to just being willing to just hear them out about their day. Sometimes it might actually be some action, like buying a little gift. It
Mm.
depends on what the situation calls for.
So how does that play itself out for you? How does she pour into you as a
So for
person?
me, my thing is, I work a lot of hours, So for me, my 9 to 5 job, I do armed security throughout the state, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
it ends up being like in like the Baltimore region. So I work. My job isn't as stressful because I've been doing it a while. I've have it set up where I have typically low stress, and then if it's more of a high risk situation, it's typically one where I'm still not doing a lot of work, just because how I've set things up, like, over the years of me doing it. My thing is I work a lot of hours. That's where my stress comes from, is the amount that I work. Her stress comes from the mental and physical, energy and effort that she has to put into what she's doing. So for me, my thing is just her having an understanding of the fact that, hey, like, I'm tired and I don't have a lot of time to work with, so my time is extremely, like, precious. So
Mm.
our thing is her understanding, how valuable my time is to me, but then me also understanding the fact that, because her job is so demanding, understanding that, hey, her free time is very
Very
valuable,
bad.
to
Mm.
her. because she has to work so much, to get it, like to earn it. It's her
Okay.
work is just compacted, but she needs more free time to be able to de-stress.
Hmm.
Whereas like physically, mentally, like just to be able to like decompress. Whereas me, I don't need that. Like, I would love to get more sleep and stuff like that, but I'm not decompressing mentally, from my job. I don't,
Okay.
and I used to have like sucky jobs like that, or where I didn't like going when I pulled up. I'm like, oh my God, but I got away from that, So my thing is just being able to refresh my body and then I'm good to go. Hers, there's a lot more to it, because of all the ins and outs of her job and all the things she can't control. And because I've listened to her talk so much about it and I ask questions, I understand it so much more. And there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in the hospitals. And of course, like in every facet of our social services, like
Yeah.
umbrella, everything that's under the umbrella, whether it's the fire department, police department, the hospitals, everything that's under the umbrella of just the general services we need. There's a lot of messed up stuff going on behind the scenes, but everybody just
Oh.
keeps it moving because it's mandatory, like we need it. But there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that the people working don't have any control over, and it kind of feels like you just have to find your own way, but nothing's actually changing to the point where it needs to change. So you learn a
Mm.
lot about that, once you're either in it yourself or once you
A
have
partner to
a
do it.
partner or a close friend that's in it, and you really get to see what it's like because they're telling you they're talking to you about it. You can see the effect that it has on them. It's not what it's not what you would think it would be,
Wow.
when you go into it. So yeah, the listening's definitely played a big part in us being able to support each other on both our fronts and what we do.
So I'm hearing listening is a key. And your situation is unique that both of you are first responders. But my question I want to ask is for the person who is not in that world at all. Maybe they're a receptionist or I don't know, but they happen to fall in love with one of you first responders. What kind of personal self-assessment should they do before stepping into these relationships to say, okay, I think I can handle this or not? I mean, what type of person is good fit for dealing with one of you folks?
One of the things I would say, and I think a lot of times working in private security is probably not something that another person would think of, but I wear a vest every day,
Mm-hmm.
because like I'm not an idiot. You never know. And even though most of the time I'm not fearing for my life, because I work in a more restricted type environment. At the end of the day, I wear it because I know like I can go from not doing anything in my job being chill to all of a sudden like we actually have props.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the best comes in. I think if you're someone who's not in that bracket at all, the one thing you have to keep in mind is the fact that the person that you're talking to, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a police officer, whether it's someone who like a firefighter or whatever the case may be, their job is to essentially put other people before themselves. And depending on exactly what their job is, like that, the levels, can vary. If you are, for instance, a nurse, if you're not at work, then you're not really going to get called into work. You
Oh,
don't have to go.
okay.
So it's going to be more confined to the hospital. But let's say, like I mentioned, if you're like a police captain or something like
Yeah.
that, or a police lieutenant, when there's a major incident, then you get a phone call that you got to jet, that you got to
Mm-hmm.
go. And if you're the partner, you might be like, "Oh, we're having a long time, yada yada yada."
Mm-hmm.
But you got to remember this is part of what you signed up for. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't hold that against the other person because that's what their job is. Yeah, it might be inconvenient for you, but just like it's inconvenient for you, it's inconvenient for them. So that you have to have a measure of selflessness in order for that to work. You don't have to you don't have to do the same thing that they're doing, but you have to understand that in a sense you're sharing them with the public to a point.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, even if it's as simple as just them being able to have to show up to work, if there's a think about when there's a with the hurricanes coming,
Mm-hmm.
or when the riots came to Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
and then multiple agencies from across the state,
Mm-hmm.
got called in to help. You think they worry about what's going on with your family? Like
Not
they yeah.
today.
And then even if you weren't getting called to, let's say, go down and help with the riots, if other people are going down to help, then maybe you get called in for some mandatory overtime, or maybe whatever the case may be.
Okay.
That's not a job that you take thinking that everything is going to be perfect like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna and even if you work in a department where things are a little less hectic, so to speak, then you still got to understand things can happen outside of your control. If there's a major accident, on the
Mm.
freeway or something like that, or anything that's just out of the ordinary,
Okay.
it can completely throw a wrench in your plans. And that's got to be something that if you're the person that's not the first responder in a relationship, you don't want to ever find yourself in a spot where you're making the person who is the first responder feel guilty about just doing their duty.
Yes.
Because they got to deal with enough of that outside of the home with media and just the public always thinking they know what they're talking about, and just the negativity and the stress that just comes with being in that line of work, because there always is going to be some negativity that comes with it, some downsides to it. There's
Yeah.
enough downsides with that line of work that they don't need any negativity when they come home coming
Right.
from you. You're
Yeah.
supposed to be the one to support and uplift them. So that's something I would say to a person who's
Really
not a
think
first
about.
responder, you have to really be mindful of. And if you're not cool with that, then
That's
probably
not the
not for you.
person for you. That's
Same
okay.
thing with military. People
Yeah.
go out and they get
Yeah.
deployed, and then they go, oh yeah, it's cool. I want a military man, or I want a military one. Okay, I'm cool with that. And
Not you
then they get
ready.
deployed, for a year, and you like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, you think the U.S. government cares like about your feelings? They don't care about that. Like that's irrelevant. That's
Yeah.
irrelevant. If you didn't, if you if you can't get with the idea of someone else being able to essentially rewrite your script, then that, especially I would say the military,
Hmm.
not not to look for you, especially if you're in a situation where you can get deployed. You
Yeah.
got to be ready for change to come. And you got to
Definitely.
understand that it could come abruptly. So that's what I would say. You got to be adaptable. If you're not, if you're not flexible,
Yeah.
then
It's a whole.
that's not going to be the person for you.
It's a whole amount of selfishness, and that there's another demographic of people in this whole um, relationship setup when it comes to first responders. Um, that might not be so easy for them to be selfless, and that's when we start talking about children. Like children don't understand all the time. What do you mean you were supposed to be at my game and you got a
Hmm.
call and now you got to go? Like I don't understand that. Is there a way to ease the children into this understanding, because they're part of the whole relationship package as well when they come along?
I would say, but still, it still comes down to communication. When you talk about the foundations of any healthy relationship, it's trust, communication, and then accountability is the one that I add, because everyone wants to act like that's invisible, but that's a huge thing. But the communication that applies to your relationship with your kids as well. Some people believe in lying to their children about things like the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, and other people believe in telling the kids what it is up front. And I'm not going to say either one is right or wrong, but what I'll say is I was raised that the truth will set you free, right? So and kids are way more intelligent than you ever think they are. They will start learning as soon as you start teaching them. So if you
Yes.
start teaching them, at a young age, about what your job is and what it is that you have to do, then they're not going to have a problem with it if it's being explained to them what it is that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
If your partner can be cool with it, your kids can be cool with it.
Okay.
There's still many there are many yous, many me's, there are many yous, So if they know, because kids love cops, they love firefighters, they love all that stuff. So like to them, if you're the cop or you're the firefighter, you're the nurse or whatever, you'd be like a little superhero,
Mm.
that little superwoman or superman. But if you don't take the time to sit them down and explain, preemptively like what's going on and what certain things can look like, then yeah, you'll be setting yourself up. But if you're already letting them know, hey, I might not make it to this game because I'm working this week, and I might have to get called in and put my cape on or whatever, however you want to pitch it to your
Gotcha.
child.
Yeah.
If you're explaining it to them in a way that they can understand, then you shouldn't have, any issues. As long as you're putting your best foot forward and you're showing up, when it's within your ability to show up, then it shouldn't be no problems in the times where you can't, as long as you're communicating that to your child.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay. Well, my next question is, how does a man such as yourself, with so much going on, have the time to facilitate this event that you're coming up with? Like, you
It's
making
on a
28
Sunday.
hours? You're making 28 hours out of a 24-hour day?
It's
Is
a, it's a Sunday. So that normally that's my session day. So I do most of my client meetings on Sunday. I've done that for a while where I packed most of it in the Sunday. So all I'm doing on that specific Sunday, because it's September 15th, I'm just not gonna have any sessions that day at all. And then I'm
okay.
gonna use that as a date night for us too. So, kill two
Oh, okay.
birds with one
We
stone.
packing a punch there. So explain what's going on at the event there. What's it all about?
So it's the whole point of the event. I wanted to do like a group counseling type thing for a long time. But I wanted it obviously to have enough people there so that it makes sense for me to do it. I was gonna do it before, and then it ended up just kind of like fizzling out. I had some people sign up, and then I don't remember exactly why I had to like cancel it, but I ended up pushing it off, and I said, okay, I'm gonna do it sometime later. So with me doing it this time, I made a connection that actually enabled me to be able to, rent a theater out because it's a private event and set this up. And I had to think, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on marketing, because
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I'm not interested in doing that. And I'm thinking about to like what's gonna be more attractive to people, in terms of them coming as well. So that's why I decided to target first responders. Now the event is open to everybody, but be targeting first responders, I can personally hand out flyers to all local police departments, all local fire departments. I can do that in the city and in the county. I can do that myself, and
Awesome.
then
Awesome.
actually like show my face and do it that way. And with it being a date night, the whole premise behind it is that a lot of times, and this is talking to my clients, you see it a lot of times you ask people, when's the last time y'all been on a date? And sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's been a while or it's been a month. And other times they'll be looking up at the sky and they're like, and they're just silent. And it's like, that's a sad thing. They don't even know. They don't even know. Like, it's just like, so
Mm,
it's that means it's been like a year or plus, like,
yeah.
like that's so I know a lot of people, especially, the older you get, they get out of that cycle of having an actual date night or
Mm-hmm.
doing something where it's just them two. I always emphasize the fact that you need time with your family, time with your partner, and time with yourself. You can't just merge all of them together and just do that all the time. They are all separate categories
Yeah.
that you need to satisfy in order for you to really be, whole. And so, with this being a date night event, we're starting it off with some constructive and healthy conversation about relationships in the beginning of the night. It's a soft approach to like counseling and talking about relationships and marriage and things like that. But we're gonna end the night, with the movie. So you're getting a little bit of okay, like this is not something I really thought about. And you kind of it's a way for you to kind of call it like it's like eating a power bar. I'm not forcing the vegetables down your throat, but let's get a little energy bar real quick. Oh, this is not too bad, and then we close it out
Mm-hmm.
with the movie. So you're having fun, but I kind
Gotcha.
of sprinkling the seeds of counseling, I would say, in the beginning.
Gotcha.
And the goal is that with it being different people there and groups of people there, that maybe someone else brings something up in our little group discussion that is applicable to your relationship, but maybe you just didn't feel comfortable bringing it up before. Or maybe because you're in
Mm,
that group setting, because you can kind of be general with it, maybe you bring something up that kind of sparks a conversation that actually addresses the issue that you should have talked about at home, but you haven't. My goal is for this event to push people in the direction of having conversations at home that they may have been avoiding, and to just make them aware of the support that's available to them.
okay.
Because that's been a big thing for me is the fact that I'm available, to my clients. Like it's not just an in session type thing. You can reach me 7 days a week, but a lot of people don't know that there's someone out there that's really like in their corner. That if it's 11 o'clock at night, they'll take that phone call. A lot of people aren't aware of that.
Awesome. 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 Well, you've been at this for a minute, and first responders tend to be Superwoman and Superman with the capes and stuff like that. Do you find that they're more open to counseling, or I'm too tough for that? I don't want to talk about
I wouldn't. I would say I wouldn't be able to say. I've had a lot of mixed backgrounds in terms of the clients that I've had, like over the past like 4 years. I've had military, like military couples, but occupation wise, a lot of them are really just scattered. I don't, to my knowledge, I haven't gotten a chance, at least recently, to work with any law enforcement or firefighters excuse me, or I had some in the medical field, but law enforcement and firefighters, I just haven't come across it. So that's another big reason why I'm wanting to, really kind of draw them out. I would think that when it comes to specifically those two, let's say the law enforcement, and the firefighters, and even some of the nurses, that they're probably thinking that some of the stuff that's going on in a relationship, maybe they don't want to talk about it. If you don't feel understood, that's some people kind of feel like, yeah, I want to share that, but after a certain point of feeling like you're misunderstood or you're not understood, that kind of puts some people in a space where they kind of want to go into their own little corner. Maybe they just talk to their friends, but they don't really want to talk to anybody else because they're just tired. Um,
Mm,
so I would think that, if anything, maybe first responders in that area would be a little bit less likely to want to necessarily reach out, or maybe when they do reach out, they're not as willing to just open up and share. But it depends. It depends. That's like I said, that's why I want to make sure that I'm putting it out there that, hey, this is something that, I mean, you're not excluded from. And if there's some things that maybe you haven't gotten to share with your partner that you feel like maybe you can't talk about, if you need to talk to me individually, you can do that too. But at the end of the day, not talking about the stuff at all
it's not
is
gonna
not
help.
gonna help. It's not
Absolutely.
gonna help. And I think sometimes if you're in a relationship where maybe a relationship is okay, but it could be better. Maybe some of the stuff that needs to be talked about that's just about your relationship could be tied into maybe some of the stuff that has to do with your job, in terms of you wanting to share this about what's going on, but then that kind of tying into maybe your mood and how you're feeling at home. And that creates things you need to talk about that's really about your relationship. But in order for them to really understand exactly how you feel or what's going on, you got to talk about your job too. And maybe
Ah,
you don't necessarily want to talk about that because it's frustrating you, to a point where you
gotcha.
just want to shut down about it. So whatever the case may be, you can work through all that. But the guaranteed way to fail is to not talk
Not
about it
talk
at all,
about it at all.
and that's just going to make
Absolutely.
it worse.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking to do, is to make sure that if there's anybody out there like that, which I'm sure there are,
Oh yeah.
that they know, like, hey, like, I'm here for you, like, we can have whatever conversations you need to have, but the important thing is to have the conversations and to start, somewhere.
Start with come. So you mentioned that you have your clients on Sundays. Is it mostly couples or do they come one individual sessions? How
It's
does that?
mixed. So I do
Okay.
everything from individual counseling all the way up to, family and group counseling. Most of my clients are couples because that's just the most popular thing. So some of them are married, some of them aren't, some of them live together. I've had ones that like are separated. So it really just depends on what's going on. I have some like adolescent clients, so I do that too. Sometimes parents reach out and they want you to talk to their teenagers. So, I get different paperwork that I get signed for that. But
Okay.
I'll do that too. So I've had some like long standing clients that I've been working with for a while, and it's cool because you get to like see them grow. I've had clients that have gotten married while they've been in counseling, so that's really cool, too. So because you get to see all that, and
The
just
growth.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and even just like because obviously I take notes, so like I know, I remember some clients when they started were physically like apart, like they
Mm-hmm.
weren't touching when they were sitting down, and then later on, they're actually next to each other and kind of like cuddled up, and you see, like the difference in between how they were before and then how they are, towards like closing, so
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that I get to see that, like see that progression, over time. But yeah, it's really mixed with what I do. But the couples is definitely the biggest thing that I end up getting slammed with.
So what makes a man say, "Hey, I'm going to help people be in love"? How did you get into this in the first place?
I don't know if I would say I hope I'm being loved. More maybe stay in love, but
Stay in
but
love.
no, so it started back in 2020. We all got hit with a whirlwind of COVID.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I was already working my butt off, but there wasn't any more work that I could do physically, like hourly, because I was already working a max 7 days a week, 84 hours a week. So it was literally nothing else that I could do, unless it was going to be something I could do from home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the idea of counseling came into play, just based off of like natural talent. I'm like, okay, I know I'm a natural de-escalator. I'm somebody that people come to, my friends come to for advice and like a level-headed approach. And I'd say I do a pretty decent job of listening and giving advice that's applicable to them, not just random advice or just get you out of my face advice, which I think is what a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people do. They hear one sentence and then they'll comment on it when they need to hear everything. So then
Yeah.
they can give you, an actual suggestion with substance,
Mm-hmm.
not something that they'll just have to keep changing every 5 seconds when you give them new info. So that was something that I felt I was naturally good at. So when I initially had the idea of counseling, I kind of threw it out because I was just like, just that's not. I just didn't really. I just thought it was a silly idea, so I threw it out. But after a couple of days, I was just brainstorming. I was like, well, let me actually look into it. Let me see what it looks like. And at the time, I had a lead source that I was using for building websites and things like that I was getting leads for, and I used that lead source to see, what couples counseling and individual counseling was looking like. And to my surprise, when I put that out there as a service, just as a tester, it's a whole bunch of people who were asking for help, but no one was responding to them. So I took that as all right, I got to give this a shot because no one's actually helping these people. And
Yeah.
my big thing is I'll help you as long as you're willing to help yourself. That's
Mm-hmm.
my big pet peeve. If you're not doing what you need to do to help yourself, I have no sympathy for you whatsoever. But if
Mm-hmm.
you're actually saying like, hey, like can you, I need some help. Can you come over? Can you support me? I'm all for that. I'm
Yeah.
all for that because you're not just saying, hey, like take my hand. You're saying take my hand, I'll follow, like lead me. Like I'm all for that. So that's what got me into initially doing it. And then my first client wasn't even a couples thing. It was a mother and a daughter. They were in two different states, and the daughter was about to get married, and she wanted to make sure that her relationship with her mother was cordial enough that her mother could still come to the wedding so they could get along. And we did the first session. At the time, I was only charging $60 for like 45 minutes because it was my first one. I didn't formally know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Did that first session, and I thought it went okay. But of course, like I said, just like with anything you do for the first time, I never did it formally. So I
Mm-hmm.
asked them, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like this would be something you would do again? Because I'm still a salesman, so I know those procedures. I'm still following that. And they said, yeah, we like this. We'll do it again. And in my brain, I was just like, oh, you know, and I felt so good because that little $60 felt like everything. It felt like gold
Yeah.
because it was me. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't going through
Impact.
another
Yeah.
company and then going to me when after they give me what they want to give me. It was me selling myself and them buying me, like with
There
no
you
fluff.
go. There
So
you
and then I'm
go.
helping someone.
There you
So
go.
that was like those are all the boxes that you could hope to check. You're making good money and you're helping someone. Like I don't really know
There it is.
how,
There it
if it gets
is.
better than that.
Full
So that's where it
purpose. Yeah.
started. And then I think it was 2 weeks after that, it just blew up. And I just never looked back. I've done business in over half the country now, work with clients as young as 15, as old as 60 plus. And it just kept going. COVID was a really big factor in terms of, I didn't realize that in terms
Shifting
of
direction.
pushing
Yeah.
people in because they were all stuck in the house,
Yeah.
so that's died down. But now, so I'm always looking to evolve. Now Google's a big thing for me. So people are finding me on Google. Excuse me. People are finding me on Google. They're just, looking up counselors near me, life coach near me, whatever the case may be, and they're finding me on Google and they're hitting me up that way. So I'm not even actually, I don't have to pay any money for that. That's just because of
Awesome.
the presence I built. And I didn't have that when I started. So that's it there's still much more for me to accomplish, in that space because I'm still moving forward with it. And this event is an example of, me doing that. But I don't intend to stop. As long as I'm
Awesome.
helping people, then I feel like it'd be, a disservice to myself and to others if I was to stop doing it. If I know that there's people out there that are,
That need
asking
help.
for the help, they maybe went to someone else before, it didn't work out. I feel like I owe it, to I don't know what you would society. I don't know. That sounds a little too bold, but like it's my duty to keep,
Help
investing,
somebody. Yeah.
time into those who are asking for the help because I didn't have anything like that when I was growing up, and I didn't really know about anything like that when I was growing up. And our generation now, they need a lot of help. So I'm definitely here, for those who are, want to listen, they want to change.
Yes. So on your website as well, you talked about the Google, but I see you have some ebooks as well. Can you give us a rundown of some of the titles and topics?
So the ebooks are something where I was able to partner with the company that does ebooks. So I didn't actually have to formally write the ebook. So the
Okay.
ebooks are more so ones that I felt were good enough to share with others. So
Okay.
there's ones on there about building your credit. There's ones on there about like little tidbits about how to, improve your relationship. There are a couple specific to me that I actually constructed, and that would be like my workbooks that I have for individuals. And there's a relationship workbook in there. Those are designed to give you a guide, like a 30-day guide you can use to boost your performance, like in that 30 days. There's also some spreadsheets in there when it comes to budgeting that I also created. Those are some that I actually use for myself as well. The ebooks mixed in between there are ones, like I said, from a selection that I picked that I felt were appropriate for
Okay.
what I do, that are in line with what I do. So they all stay under the umbrella of all the things that I offer. So like, even like I said, the building your credit in 90 days, that's something that I didn't learn about when I was younger.
Yeah, we all need
My
that.
parents we talked a little bit about it, but I learned a lot about credit as I got older. When I was in sales, that's when I learned, a lot about it. And even like, relationships. I looked to my parents, for an example, but like the workbook I created, the workbook, 30-day challenge workbook, is based off of all the experience that I got working with my clients and things that I've experienced in my life. So that's where the template comes from. I didn't get that from anywhere. I made that from what I see working and what I see, not working. So that's all there for those who maybe they don't want to do counseling yet, or maybe they're just not ready to talk to me, but they can go there and get, like a little guide that they can use to work on by themselves. And then
Mhm.
afterwards, if they say, hey, you know what, I'm actually going to reach out, then they
Mhm.
can do so.
And a quick sidebar, little comedic moment here. I saw you on a talk show.
Was it a was it a stock show? Or was it a stand up that I did?
I, Steve Wilco, Steve.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was in the audience a few times. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, in the audience, you weren't one of the
Yeah.
guests.
No, 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 no. I didn't do nothing
Okay,
like that.
okay. I ran by it. I was like, okay, well, was he on there? I
Yeah.
said,
Yeah,
okay,
a couple of videos are getting some traction because I put it up there. So it was fun. That was actually something my girl took me to do.
okay.
Yeah,
Date
for my
night or
30th birthday.
date day. Okay.
It was a couple of days, yeah, actually. Yeah, she took me up there when I for my 30th, and we went to Connecticut and got a
Mm,
chance to be in the audience. She set it all up, took me to a Brazilian steakhouse and everything afterwards. So it was real nice. Yeah, it was real nice. I'm a big Steve Wilkos fan because he helps people with their relationships and stuff too. Like some people still they still think that they might think the show's not real or whatever, but it's not Jerry Springer. Like where it's he's doing paternity tests, he's doing lie detector tests, like he's really looking to sit people down and be like, look, what are you doing?
so
So
it's the
yeah,
real deal. It's not staged or
no, 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 no. When it comes to us reacting like an audience, they tell you ahead of time like
Mhm.
what the story is, so so because they want a reaction like
Okay.
when he's talking about the story, but otherwise like we don't know what's going to be said. Like it's all just like Steve don't know what's going to be said. He doesn't know the results or nothing. The If he throws a chair, which he doesn't do anymore because the chairs are too either heavy and he don't feel like doing that. But in the past, when he's thrown chairs, when he's like, "Get off my stage," that's for the camera because it is
Yeah.
a TV show. But at the end of the day, like these are real people, and that's what they tell you before anyone even comes out. They're like, "Look, these are real people, so understand. Like, don't be being disrespectful or whatever, because these are real people and real people's lives." So they tell you that, like right up front, and so that was a pretty cool experience. I'm definitely planning on going back. You because because I mean it was fun. It was fun, but I'm definitely a big fan because he's doing what I'm doing, but on a national. I'm doing it on a national scale,
There
but
you
on
go. There
TV.
you
I'm not on
go.
TV.
There you
I'm not on
yet
TV.
yet
So yeah. So
yet yeah. Well, so, and that brings me to my next question. What can we expect? Or what would you like to expect? Next 4 years, 5 years. What do they say? 5 year plan, 10 year plan. Where are we going with this?
I got a few year plans, but but there's quite a few things, and I've talked to my clients about this stuff too. One of the things, and some of it's actually come from my clients in terms of ideas, couples retreat. That would be really cool. To do like a couples retreat where I can, where everybody can come out and I can pick a location and, either I can do it where it's ticketed, or I would love to do it where I can just pay for it. And maybe all they got to do is just pay for their plane ticket there. And I can like pay for the entire thing, and I'll have a videographer out there, to film everything. That would be really cool, because, and then that would be something that will obviously be attractive to people too, because it's like you taking a
Mhm.
little vacation, or whatever the case may be. So that's something I want to do. I also want to be able to be in a position to do grants for people too, because I've had a lot of clients over the years that they've been struggling, with maybe like rent or something happens with their car,
Yes,
and especially if you
absolutely.
have the reality is a lot of people who I've worked with, their relationships don't always work out. That's not uncommon. That's quite, it's quite common actually.
Especially with first responders, I hear they have the highest divorce rate, right?
They're high, yeah, they're higher, but just in general though,
General,
when it
yeah,
comes to
okay.
people coming to counseling, some people feel like counseling doesn't work, or it does, but the reality of it is, and this is there's a lot of sad truths in this world. But when it comes to relationships, the reality of it is a lot of people who are in relationships, just like a lot of people who have children, have no business having either one. If you had no business being in a relationship with this person or with anybody, because you're not, you're just not, of good, you're not healthy, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, you need healing, and you enter a relationship with a person, right? And then you have a kid with that person, you think that just gonna magically gonna solve everything?
Mm-mm.
Well, you shouldn't have been in either spot.
Mm-hmm.
That just makes everything worse. It just amplifies everything. And unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they just continue to roll past things, ignore, ignore, ignore. You got on the highway, your car had a check engine light on. You decided to take a road trip. You already knew your car had a check engine light on. One of your tires goes out. Okay, so now you put the donut on. So now your
Mm-hmm.
car that was already struggling is struggling more because now you got a donut on it. You
Mm-hmm.
pick up a hitchhiker. It was like, what are you doing? You picking up a hitchhiker in a car that you already know is not headed for a
Compounding the
good place.
situation and compounding
You're
it.
not even if you don't have the money to fix the car, how is pushing the car to its limits going to help you solve anything?
Mm-hmm.
You're just creating a situation where when things go, it's going to be very ugly and painful for you.
That's
And you have a
right.
lot of people who do that in their relationships and they just refuse to admit, the fact that, hey, I went about this the wrong way. When there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But the further they go down the rabbit hole, like the worse it gets. And
Yes.
some people are willing to be like, you know what? They'll swallow that pill and they'll be like, what do I need to do? And you can help them, you can coach them through it. You can help them, like walk through it. And it's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
be easy, but they're willing to, you can help them through it. Other people will just they'll hear what you say and they'll be like, yeah, yeah, but the things that they really need to do that they don't want to do because of the discomfort it's gonna cause, and they don't do it and they
Yes.
just end up not it ends up not working out
Yes.
because it's just it's not like the things I say to people. It's not like I'm making the stuff up. I keep it simple. I say you can either listen to what I'm saying about how life works, and that's all I'm telling you. This is how it works. You can either listen to what I'm saying, I can guide you, and I can help you work through it, or you can pretend like what I'm saying is just a bunch of made up hufflepuff,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go about what you're doing and end up, wherever you were going, which isn't a good place. That's why you reached out to me.
That's right.
I want the best for everybody, but in terms of you getting the best for yourself and being the best version of yourself for yourself and your
Mm-hmm.
partner, there's a lot of realism and honesty that comes into play. People don't want to
Absolutely.
look in the mirror and accept that
That's what,
when they see what they need to work on.
yeah, I have, witnessed over and over again, when people have these failed relationships, they don't go sit in a corner for a while. They just jump right into another one. And like,
Mm-hmm.
it, don't you think you need to do some self-assessment here and figure out what's going on here? And especially people who have a repetitive pattern, after it's like the third or fourth time, oh, okay, wait a minute, something, this is me here. Let me sit and figure this out. But nobody wants to do this. And
They don't want to do that because
we're
it's
just
easy to
damaging
just
each other.
it's easy to just be like, all right, on to the next one, because then they don't have to dwell in their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're just dooming yourself to failing in the next relationship. And here's the kisser right here. Is that next relationship could actually be the one for you. But if you're not in a position to foster, that
A
help that
healthy.
into a healthy relationship, like it's not gonna work out for you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like trying to eat your favorite meal on an upset stomach. It could be the best meal of your dang life, but you got an upset stomach. It doesn't matter what the meal is; it's gonna fail. It's not gonna go down right. And people end up doing that. You could end up blocking your blessing because you didn't take the time to heal.
That's right. We need to get to a place where we heal. So, all righty, dear. Well, I'm going to ask you my random question because I think that I could talk to you for a while longer, and I don't want to take up your Sunday. I'm pretty sure you have some more stuff to do, be OCD about, and sit and talk to me. So let me see what we've got here. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Hmm. I actually have to think about that. I actually have to think about that. I can't say that I never picked. That's actually a good question. I never picked, like, I don't think I ever had a job in mind. Um, my father always pushed like ideas of entrepreneurship and freedom.
Awesome.
So the
Awesome.
closest thing I ever, I mean, I always had in my mind just being, free to make as much money as I want to make. More so just being in a position to be able to just, network and make moves. Like I never narrowed that down to an actual job or position. It was more
Okay.
so I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna be a go-getter. I'm gonna be a hustler. Whatever way that ends up shaping out, I just know that's what I'm gonna be. I never actually narrowed it down to a job. When I was a kid, I didn't have that. When I grew up, I want to be an astronaut. I never had that. You know,
So you were the kid cutting lawns and selling candy in school and all that stuff. You were an
shoveling
entrepreneur.
snow. Yep, shoveling snow. Stuff like selling coffee.
I'm gonna get my
Yeah.
hustle. I'm gonna get my hustle on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
Selling coffee and stuff like that, like
Okay.
did my little network marketing thing for a little bit, realized that wasn't for me. But that was yeah, I was always in that lane, of creating an opportunity for myself that I could really make my own.
Okay.
I didn't think I was gonna end up in the space where I am now. When I was in high school, everyone said I'm either gonna be a car salesman or like a phone salesman. And ironically, I did both. I felt I was gonna do, at least one. That made sense, but I didn't think I was
Yeah.
gonna do both, so that was kind of funny. But
Okay.
now I get to sell, for myself, so I think that that's really cool. But in a space where I get to
Provide a
help people,
foundation.
because I never got the. I've had a couple people I sold cars to over the years where I did, like in a sense, like really have a big impact on their lives because of their situation, but that's far and in between. When it comes to like counseling and the coaching and someone's like, hey, like you saved my marriage, or like you talked me off a ledge. I can't I never was
Awesome.
able to do anything like
Awesome.
that before. So those are moments that and clients that I really truly appreciate. I think a lot of times I appreciate them more than they appreciate me. They just don't realize that.
Mm,
So to be in that position means a lot, and I definitely am excited to see where that takes me 2, 3, 4 years from now.
that's right. We are here for a purpose. We are here for a reason, and Mr. Wall has found his reason. So I'm glad. Well, so tell us how we pick up some tickets for the event, pick up some of the ebooks, book you for a session if we need to. Just learn how first responders get down. Just give us the whole lowdown.
If you are in because I'm based in Baltimore region in
Yeah, I
Maryland.
heard the
So,
do. I heard the do
so
do.
most of my clients are spread across the country. But 2024 and this year, I've been pushing more into speaking opportunities, and also just I've been offering more in-person sessions, which wasn't something I did before. So clients did not ever really get to meet me. It was just virtual.
Okay.
So if they're local, like in the DMV area, then if they want the premium in-person service, then I do offer that. First sessions are typically heavily discounted if they're booking like within that same day as a consultation call. So that's
Okay.
something I've done to make things more affordable. Everybody can go to my website to do it. So just www.jonwaugh.com. Again, you can see my name on the screen, but JONWAUGH.com. You fill out an inquiry form, book with Jon, whether you're doing a speaking engagement that you want to, give me to come out and speak for, or you just want to do your free consultation call, book with Jon, takes you to the bottom, and then gives you a little bit of info about how we do things, and then you fill out your information, and then I respond based off of what you put in there, and then we get things moving. Consultation calls are always free. My biggest thing is I don't want money stand in the way of someone being able to get the help that they need. So even for people who say like, hey, I really wanted to pay with insurance, which I don't take. I have sliding scale rates, so I'm able to bring my prices
Awesome.
down and kind of like meet them where they are. And first responders, they did discounts too. So if you are first responder in general, you get 5% off. If you are law enforcement, um, what is it? Law enforcement, fire department, nurse, and I believe also military. Based in Maryland, then you get 10% off because it's like a local discount. So all that's available on top of some other things as well, just to make it something where hey, people are like, look, I don't have any excuse. So I
No
always say,
excuse.
yeah, give one session a shot, and then go from there. 95% of the time, people are gonna book again because they get a lot out of that first session, and they always end up going over because they didn't. They're like, "Oh, I didn't realize the time flew by so fast," you know. So, that's definitely the that's definitely what I always encourage everybody to do.
Mhm.
When it comes to the event, same thing. Go to the website. There's a pop up that'll come up when you go to the website for the event. If you are in Maryland, the event is in Pikesville, which is in Baltimore County. It's about a month from now on September 15th. It's open to everyone, not just first responders. So definitely bring your special someone out. The tickets are on sale now for like early bird rates. So it's limited seating. So it's a premium type, event where, like I said, it's a private event. So it is ticketed. You can't just walk in there and be like, "Hey, I'm here for the," no. Like that's
Okay,
not gonna
okay,
happen. Like
okay,
it's yeah, we got a certain amount of seats and that's it. Like you're not. I got the whole theater rented out, so it's not. We're not mixing with anyone. It's just
okay,
us,
okay.
which is really cool. Which is really cool. So I already got some tickets already sold. I am gonna be going out and handing out flyers and everything because I like to show my face. I've done
Mhm.
community outreach before where I did the same thing. So I'm gonna be in Baltimore County and Baltimore City and all the police departments and all the fire stations, like handing stuff out too. So we expect to get, some tickets out that way as well. But definitely it's gonna be a great event. And if anything, if you haven't been out on a date in a while, take your person out for a date, kill two
That's
birds with one stone.
right.
Get a little
Okay.
conversation in there and kill two birds with one stone. There's gonna be alcohol served, so it's 21 and up, so no kids. So
No.
so it'll be real nice. And the theater that we're using is Next Act Cinema, which is actually right next to Maryland State Police headquarters.
Okay,
So it'll
okay.
be it'll be real nice.
Awesome, awesome. Well, a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth about COVID, but we're so glad for COVID because we got to witness the growth and development of you and your services. And I mean, just a beautiful thing that you're offering. So, from little old me and my little small space, I just want to, say kudos. And it's just amazing, that you were touching and impacting people's lives in an area that sometimes we can be silent about and just suffer, So, it's very important that we have folks like you that kind of give us a space to grow and evolve. So,
I
uh,
appreciate it.
just appreciation from me. Well, that is all for this week's episode of the Male Perspective. I'm your host, Lana Reid, and I will see everybody next time.